just this massive announcement around AI.
Project Stargate.
Most of tech was sitting in Washington, D.C.
Because I don't think the regulations know what to regulate yet.
AI disinformation. It's kind of scary. That aspect of it is kind of scary.
There's a company called Hume. They think about emotion.
Dude, that's crazy. Trav, how you doing?
Hi, Justin.
Here we are.
Where are we?
We're in Orlando, Florida. You know exactly where we are. There's a lot to talk about.
There is.
Watching a semi-new president come in,
Mhm.
not so new president come in, make all these announcements.
Yeah.
Literally before inauguration. Inauguration happens. And then to watch yesterday, just this massive announcement around AI.
Project Stargate.
Yeah, I wasn't surprised. Were you surprised when you saw that there was
No.
three companies, three people that are going to back, $500 billion investment in AI? Were you surprised by that, like in any way? I wasn't. I kind of looked at it like, all right, we're up for something.
Let me maybe we should back up for a second. So a year and a half ago, Sam Altman goes out and he starts telling people, "Oh, we're OpenAI. We're not making the advancements that people think we should be."
Yeah.
Right? And there's lots of reasons that people can point to as an excuse or otherwise, but his was there's not enough compute power in the world to allow them to build the models.
He's literally been saying this.
To do the future.
Yep.
I mean, they've been talking about since November of 2023.
Yeah.
Right? And they've been advocating for people to come on board to invest in the idea.
Yes.
And I think what we're seeing yesterday was a more public announcement of this, because this has been in the works for a while and they've already broken ground.
Well, that's the craziest shit, because so you remember I was in Vancouver at the the major TED conference. It's everybody knows of TED Talks, but the main stage is in Vancouver. There's there's a gathering every April. So I didn't go last year due to a number of scheduling conflicts, but I was there the year prior. And Greg Brockman, the co-founder of OpenAI, was there and gave a TED Talk. And he did an interview. And he said at that time, this is 23, he's like, listen, the race for AI is all about compute. It's all about the silicon. It's all about who can figure that out faster than anybody else. And that's who wins this.
Yeah.
And I think we're now just starting to, let's see. So following that, we watched the rise of NVIDIA. We saw recently this news of potentially an Intel takeover.
Right.
These are massive
What's
things
AMD
happening.
doing, by the way?
What's that?
What's AMD doing?
That's
AMD's been around as long as NVIDIA.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Right? You're right, though, that the world of tomorrow is, if data is the new oil, what's it going to power? What's the engine?
Yeah.
Right? And compute is obviously the engine.
Right.
But if it's not going fast enough for us, then people are just going to point to it and say, "Hey, look, there's a bottleneck here."
And your thinking is consistent with what mainstream media pushes around. You've got to have data centers. You've got to have compute power. You've got to have public and private investment. These are all things you and I have talked about.
Yeah.
Yesterday was not a huge surprise. Stargate's announced. You see Larry Ellison, who he aged, man. He aged. He looks older. Yeah. It was wild, though. So you're sitting there watching the inauguration, for anybody that caught it, and you see Bezos, you see Zuckerberg. Zucks is sitting right next to him. You see Musk. You see all this money sitting behind the now president.
You know who's not a part of Project Stargate?
Talk to me.
Musk.
I saw today he openly tweeted against it. Said the money's not even real.
He does not like Sam Altman. He resents
Open
OpenAI.
Oh yeah,
all that stuff. Right?
Open lawsuit right now.
Yeah, for a while, for a couple years now.
Yeah,
whatever it is. Yeah,
legitimately feels as though OpenAI is a dangerous thing.
I would have given that more credence a couple years ago, but man, the open source models are almost as good as OpenAI. So are they really as much of a danger as the open technology is?
That's an interesting point.
It makes it doesn't feel as sincere in his anxiety or angst against OpenAI. But anyway, you're right. So Project Stargate was announced. It's been in the works for about a year and a half. It's a few different bodies that have invested in it. There's obviously OpenAI, SoftBank. SoftBank bankrolls a ton of like the biggest startups and more in the world.
Yep.
Right. You got Oracle, obviously, and they want a piece.
Of course.
Microsoft wants a piece, but they're not like a headliner. People don't like, everybody hears those three, and then like a little bit is Microsoft.
Satya Nadella choosing not to be at the inauguration. Thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
Microsoft not there.
I thought he was there. I think he wasn't at the follow up.
Oh, maybe that was it. I heard or saw reports he was in West Palm Beach with, I believe it was JD Vance and Trump at Mar-a-Lago a couple nights prior, or the weekend prior. But this week is also, it's the World Economic Forum in Davos in Switzerland. So like, I think like bank executives, they weren't, the Jamie Dimon from Chase, he wasn't at the inauguration. A lot of these guys, and men and women, they preference Davos, and they feel like that's a bigger bet. But tech didn't. Most of tech was sitting in Washington, D.C.
Well, I think they're thinking about like all the lawsuits coming, and
of course,
like almost all those companies have models they've been building, and they've not been training it on like proprietary. There's going to be lawsuits.
Do you think Stargate will solve anything?
Well, look, so it's a hypothetical $500 billion investment.
Well, right, exactly.
Right, and tranched in $100 billion per year over 4 years, where they're going to build 4+ data centers. Right, and those data centers are supposed to be for large supercomputers to go build the next models.
Almost exclusively, right?
Yeah. And then the way I get it is, it's not an OpenAI only thing. It's like for everybody to participate, right, in sort of vanity of the United States.
Yep.
But there's no government investment. There's nothing the government's doing other than like blessing that it's going to happen, type of a thing. Right. So it's all private money, and they just chose to announce it.
Well, I'm interested to see where this sparks, continued development, continued innovation. I think we all are kind of looking at that. If I think about some of the work that we do with customers at Innovative, and our partnership with Amazon, AWS's stake in AI just in general, where they feel as though that will lead and potentially help their business propel to the next level, as they look.
Amazon's not in it.
I know. It's crazy.
That's crazy. Now they have their own chips, Trainium, Inferentia.
Yep.
Right? Like, I wonder, Amazon has a history of like, we'll do it ourselves.
Exactly.
Right? So I think it's interesting that not just their competitors, but also their peers are banding together, and they're not at the table.
I totally agree. One of the things, kind of knowing that we're going to come into a conversation today, and I know it's top of mind for you, is all around this just AI disinformation.
Yeah.
These AI influencers now that are hitting social media, to influence change, to influence a message, to influence a generation. Like, if you think about, generationally speaking, how people get so much of their information or consume that information, the fact that AI now has the ability to suggest or directly provide information that is inaccurate, jaded, slanted. Now we're
nuanced.
Now we're talking about some serious shit.
Yeah. So
it's kind of scary. That aspect of it is kind of scary.
So 5 or 6 years ago, I had my own startup called Hype Equity.
Right.
And what that did was, it spent time understanding how users interact with social media. And the product intent was to figure out commonalities between what people like and what they say about companies and how that influences stock prices. That was its whole thing. I did it during the GameStop, right? One of the really interesting features we had built and sort of observations was bots.
You're saying people were using bots
to push an agenda.
Literally to push an agenda,
because
they were trying to influence ultimately an outcome of stock
pricing, right? So like, just like some detail that I think what's interesting is we would find metrics like a user would post the same or similar message 20 times in 12 seconds. Like, no human does that. You know what I mean? Like,
it's not possible.
Right. So at the time, you could You could do things like say, oh, the pattern between these posts are really similar. Oh,
Yeah.
they did 20 posts in 12 seconds. That's inhuman. Like there were sort of like markers
Right.
that you could identify, you can code around and validate against. And how about back then it was ridiculous because you could literally influence thousands of people to make stock
100%.
purchase changes.
Yeah.
And you can move the market.
Yep.
Right? Through influence.
Without a doubt.
Fast forward to today, those markers have been blurred.
Because
agents, AI agents, they can write content differently every single time. They can be more nuanced in the words they use.
And so it is harder to detect.
Extremely hard.
Where, like, if I think back, like, I'm a sneakerhead. Like, I love sneakers.
Yeah.
You love shoes.
Oh, yeah.
I remember when Evan, Zemus's brother, Constantine, who's also a huge sneakerhead, he actually lived in Atlanta. He was telling me, this is like 10 years ago. He's like, listen, for the next drop, there was something was dropping. I don't know, it was like a Jordan 11 or something. And he's like, for the next drop, I've got this bot that will literally guarantee us a pair of sneakers. I was like, that's game changer, bro. Because, otherwise it was kind of like the lottery, right?
Yeah.
And I remember sneaker bots ended up becoming a thing, but bots were easy to spot. And I think that, mainstream technology was able to pick up on these things. Then AI comes along.
Right.
And AI got really good at tricking.
Oh my God.
Systems like that. You're suggesting, I think about that because it was a very real world example, but you're suggesting beyond, all right, stock market, a business that you built that ultimately ended up selling, you're thinking this is going to a whole other level.
Yeah. I mean, look, if you can't tell who's a bot from who is, then you actually have to question the platform.
Oh,
right.
100%.
And if you question the platform, it really just it fucks with your brain a bit. You know
It
what I
does.
mean? Like you're like,
absolutely.
Is that real? Is it not real? And this is really hard to tell.
Do you think we'll see customers who are asking us to build, well, let's just say AI-enabled solutions?
Sure.
Not even BI solutions, because we see that every single day, but truly AI-enabled solutions. Do you think that there's going to become a day in the near future where we really need to figure out if something should or shouldn't be regulated before we build it for a customer? Do you think that day is upon us?
No.
Because
I don't think the regulations know what to regulate yet.
Okay.
Right? So to infer we should wait on something implies that regulatory bodies know enough itself. And they're usually
fair.
10 years behind. And
that's
so you're
fair.
usually educating them. They regulate through screw up. Oh my God, it's an exploded. Go fix it. That type of a thing.
I think of the hyper competitive nature of business here in the US, which is predominantly where our customers sit. Most of our customers are small to mid-sized businesses. I think of the fact that there's this hyper competitive nature among them.
Yeah.
Where I always feel like we're one project away from a customer asking us to do something that can literally put their competitor out of business overnight, because we can build tech that's that powerful.
I'll give you a real example.
How crazy is that?
I'll give you an example from a year ago. We had a customer come to us wanting to figure out how they can deny or approve insurance claims.
Oh, I remember this.
Yeah. And at the time, there was no regulation around it.
Nothing.
And the only reason why, so we actually started to build it, and the only reason why we stopped was back then the models weren't good enough, and we can only get accuracy of how consistent it was going to perform.
Oh, right.
Only so high. We got to
right.
70, 80%. So they needed it to be 95, 99.
Exactly. Where if we talked to them today.
So we stopped. 6 months later, regulations did come out saying you can't use ML or AI to deny care. You can use it to approve, but not deny care.
Okay.
So if we had finished that, it would have been canned or changed or pivoted.
Because of the regs.
Oh, within months.
Yeah.
Right? So there's a danger here to anybody who's building. If you're doing something that's gray area, a different example, outbound calls with voice agents.
You're saying outbound sales calls.
Yeah. Spam calls.
Spam calls, right. What we would think of as the annoying telemarketing call that we all get. You're thinking, hypothetically, we could get a customer that comes to us and sees an AI to AI agent that we create.
Yep.
Voice AI.
Voice agent.
Voice to voice.
Yep.
That the customer then may ask or may want to innovate around us building something where perhaps they have a sales agent that we help them build,
Yeah.
that they put into production, that literally is an outbound sales engine,
Right.
where the end user
doesn't know,
may or may not even know it's AI.
What gray area? What if you just don't tell them?
Right. Well, like it's not disclosed.
How will they not know? Right. The
Right.
voices are getting so good. The sort
response
of the back and forth
time
are getting just good enough. Right. Like, how would you know?
You think it's something we'll see in 2025?
Oh, hell yeah.
You think we're going to get that request?
Oh,
and
yeah.
We may actually build
I
it.
have no doubt in my mind. Like, I'm surprised we haven't got it yet. Like, it's that there are companies, there are startups that are starting to build this.
Yeah.
There's companies who are taking notice of it.
Yeah.
They're gonna be, oh my God, I need that too. Like, it is just a time problem, not a probability problem.
Well, that's the thing. I think it very much is exactly that. And I also believe as the consumer tech around AI gets better, like as we as consumers use it more and more beyond like a chatbot that may exist on a website that really is AI enabled, but because there's these instant responses.
Right.
You're not talking to a
spits
person.
out information in very clearly.
But when it gets to the point where you have to call a customer service desk for a consumer-based product, whether it's the airlines, I think, have got to do this.
Yeah.
Like, it's got to be the day it has to be around the corner that I call Delta to rebook. Like, we got a bunch of people flying into Orlando for our sales kickoff today and yesterday, this week. And we've got a bunch of people that are rebooking flights because of obviously the storms and winter.
Right.
Winter is here. It just kind of is what it is. And it's crazy because if you call probably any airline right now, they will tell you the canned recording, we are experiencing high call volume, right?
You get frustrated.
Where if there was an AI agent,
but that's a good use case.
That's a phenomenal use case.
But also, like, in that scenario, the person who's calling and they receive the bot, like, there's no reason why Delta wouldn't say it's a bot. Like, there's nothing like...
That's true.
It's very above board, right?
Right.
Versus like an outbound sales call when you want to get somebody to say yes to something. Like,
and it's super convincing.
If you say, oh, I'm AI, the likelihood they hang up is probably faster, right?
Yeah.
So you're incentivized
Without
now
a doubt.
to tell them.
Without a doubt. I could see us building a dial for manipulation factor.
Right.
Turn up the dial, it's more manipulative.
That'd be really weird.
But AI can do that.
That'd be kind of funny to make.
Just for fun.
Yeah, it'd be kind of funny to make.
Yeah, until we have somebody that wants to put it into practical use. And then we're crossing all kinds of lines. But that's the world we live in.
Yeah, I mean, it's just going to be more of that. I think people are going to think long and hard about how social media is used going forward.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Without
a doubt. Like, did they actually post that?
Right.
Oh, it looks like it's a real post. Those look like real pictures.
Right.
Looks like they were really in Italy.
Right.
It's all bullshit.
I mean, so like backing into agents remote, that's really popular right now in the market. So for people who don't know, what makes an agent is agency, meaning it can choose to do something when it chooses to do so. Like, you can't tell it like on step 4, go do this. Like, that's a workflow.
Yep.
If an agent is
typical chatbot you would see in mainstream website interaction, right?
Oh, you want to log into your bank? Okay, step 2. Put in your bank, step 3. Like, that's a workflow.
Series of steps.
Right?
Yep.
An agent, you say, I want to do a thing, and it chooses what to do. And it could choose wrong, right? It can choose from an assortment of things, which are called tools.
Yep.
It can choose to use it or not. And I actually truly think 2025 is, everybody's talking about agents like it's the year of the agents, and I think that's probably the wrong lens to think of it. I don't think a lot of companies are going to build dedicated bespoke agents, because just like any other piece of software, you get to manage it and maintain it. You're going to have like software companies who are going to have agents. You're going to subscribe to them. And so like, it's a year of the agents, but I think in reality, it's a year of tools.
Because the tools...
It what enables the agents to have agency.
Right. The agent is almost a commodity in the whole realm.
Imagine your Wegmans.
Yeah.
Why do you need your own agent? Why couldn't you make a tool and you expose it for other agents and you let Instacart or whoever let them make the agent, right? And then build it. So I think because
agents really should be your theory or your hypothesis around this is that agents could be generic enough where the tools, the combination of tools is really what makes them powerful.
Right.
Is that essentially where...
Yeah, and I think about like, how many SaaS companies are there in the United States? Thousands, right? Tens of thousands.
Yeah.
Right?
Like, guaranteed.
You or I, we don't want to subscribe to 10,000 variations of
Oh,
Netflix.
I see. Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But there's going to be 10,000 entry points for agents to use. I think the real play here to pay attention to is who's building the tools, the technologies, and more to give SaaS companies and other businesses the ability to make tools to be exposed to an agent.
That makes a lot of sense. I was in Seattle, as you know, last week at Amazon's headquarters, and I had a series of meetings. And one of the meetings I had was somebody who's had a product on the partner side. Guy's brilliant. And we were having a conversation around the types of workloads we see in most small to mid-sized businesses that are applicable to an AI solution and the typical use case that aligns. And, I was explaining that we see this propensity in healthcare. And he made actually a pretty significant point. He's like, that actually makes a lot of sense, because in these regulated industries like financial services, another big industry we see, in healthcare, a lot of that data has been structured in a way where building AI over the top is it's so applicable already. And one of the fascinating things he shared with me was AI is also seen an uptick when AWS kind of looks at where they're seeing adoption across the platform in the creative space. And I was shocked by that, because we don't see that. We don't see media and creative is not an area that our business
is so subjective, right?
So subjective. But AWS is seeing a major, a massive, as big as we see the opportunity in financial services and healthcare. And we got on the topic of agentic AI and where agents fit, where they play a role. And he said exactly what you just said, that the tooling is where really the power is.
Right.
Less about the agent itself.
Right. I can build an agent in 10 minutes.
Right.
It's not hard.
Right.
Right. The hard part is making it do something useful.
If you got the right tools.
Right.
The right combination of tools.
Right.
It's game changer.
So Anthropic released something in the middle of last year. And when I saw it, I was like, oh my God, this is going to be the shit. Everybody should pay attention to this thing. It's called the Model Context Protocol, or MCP. And what it is their attempt to standardize how companies and organizations and more build tools as APIs.
Oh.
So historically, last year and a half, what you would do with an agent is you'd build a tool as code in your software box.
Okay.
Like in your code base, you run your agent, it has tools that you wrote.
Makes total sense.
I mean, sure, right? So Anthropic's hypothesis was extrapolate that, take that outside of a tool. So I'll show you an example. So this is typical tool use for an agent. A request comes in and it has I got to do a thing. It picks a tool and it does it and it comes back and says, hey, I'm done. Right? Normal back and forth process that you would typically expect. It gets more complicated as you add more tools and you add more steps and you add more things. And so this makes a code base, it makes implementation dramatically difficult to maintain.
Because it's complex.
Holy shit. Imagine every one of these agent companies, they're making their own agent and they all have integrations of Stripe. Right? And then Stripe changes things on their ends. Now all these other companies have to change their integration point. No one wants to do that.
What's the better model?
So an MCP that Anthropic announced. So the way it works is you make servers.
Yeah.
Stripe would own a server.
Of course.
Stripe would own the tool integration. It would follow the structure that Anthropic defined. And then anybody can subscribe to their agents, but you know what the format's going to be, you know what the outcome's going to be, and you then disassociate who's responsible for the tool. So I made the hypothesis 8 months ago that MCP was really important for 2025 because everybody's going to have to standardize on something.
Okay.
Every SaaS company has to build their own thing. And this is the real, what's the word? Shovels and picks.
Yeah.
Right? For the agent year.
Yeah.
Is tool use.
That's the key.
Yeah, I do think so.
In the gold rush, so to speak.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. Do you see this affecting customers downstream directly, or do you think this is something that they'll feel in the wallet when they're going to build and support? Where do you see the customer seeing the biggest effects of this?
Customer meaning like someone who wants like a startup building a thing.
Sorry, yes,
Yeah.
that was exactly
Our
what I was
customer.
thinking. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think it's a buy versus build conversation all over again.
Because a customer's going to have choice.
Yeah. I could see Stripe taking an MCP feature,
Okay.
their AI tool feature,
Yeah.
and then putting a pricing model around it. Every time you call the API, you give us.
Oh, you pay a penny or whatever.
Yeah. Right. And so versus like, oh, I'm going to build it myself against the Stripe API.
And then have to manage it, maintain it.
Right. But it's free.
Right. So it is the build versus buy. Okay.
I really think it's going to be something like that at the end of the day. Like Stripe may put out a AI API that works fine.
Yeah.
But is missing some particular, and I got to build it now. It's the classic problem.
Sense. It is. That literally is. It's repeating itself again. Do you still see Anthropic leading?
You know,
we've bet on Anthropic for the last 2 years.
Yeah, and it's done well by us.
It very much has.
Yeah.
Especially in the business world.
Yeah.
You know, customers that want a secure place to interact, you know, at an AI level.
Yeah.
No question. What's your read on kind of how they see the world?
Open source and competitor models are catching up.
They've got to feel that.
The Chinese models are getting amazing.
I just read something about this.
There's Quen and there's with a Q, and then there's DeepSeek, right? And DeepSeek is unique in its own approach.
I was reading something. It was in relation to TikTok being shut down, and TikTok owns their own model, and the Chinese models are
neck and neck.
Yeah,
a little bit worse, but like
close enough.
Open source,
right?
So like you can just pull it, but now there's like once again nuance. I'll get back to the Anthropic thing, but like nuances here. You know those like e-reader tablets so you can make, you can write on. Of course, people have them.
Yeah,
like remarkable tablets. And
yeah.
There's a competitor to them called Boox, Boox.
Okay.
They're a Chinese company.
Yep.
They added AI features to their, like, you can write some scribble on notes, right? And you get the AI button, summarize, whatever, right? Make it look nice.
Yeah.
But they used Quen.
They did.
Which is an Alibaba model.
Open source.
But made by Alibaba. It's trained by Alibaba.
Really?
Yeah. And it had like political disinformation built into it.
Of course it did.
So users would ask questions and it would like skirt around. I think going back to like it's
disinformation because it's built into
right underneath the skin, right, of the models itself. So where does Anthropic sit? Look, I think the models are getting neck and neck, and I think they're always like half a step ahead where it used to be like a step ahead.
Yeah.
I'm looking more at, are they solving for the bigger problems? You don't see Alibaba, you don't see DeepSeek and, you know, models like that, or, you know, organizations around them solving for global tool use, right? And if Anthropic can lead the way and say, this is the pattern, you must all follow the pattern, they can then train their models ahead of time and not tell people, and say, like, our models work out of the box. Everybody else, retrain.
Yeah. Do you feel as though OpenAI, though, has a leg up?
No, I think they feel disconnected from reality a little bit.
Like they've sold out?
No, like they're getting complicated. Like they have so many different products now doing so many different things.
Yeah.
And it feels less cohesive. I'll say it like that. Like they're not uber focused on solving a particular problem set.
And that could be problematic for them as they grow and they scale,
right,
like any business.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Like they have great, like, the Sora models, and like they have all these great, interesting use cases and things, but it doesn't, like, I can't tell a cohesive story from them.
It's interesting. I mean, I think of Google in a very similar vein when I think of public cloud infrastructure. You know, when people ask me often, why is AWS, why are they so dominant? I mean, certainly Azure has its place, you know, outside the software stack. If we're just talking, you know, hyperscalers, when you look at Google, there's so many things that they do. There is a real, I think, opportunity for them to build a partner motion, entrench in small to mid-sized businesses, build a model around G Suite. I mean, like there's a clear avenue there, but they do so many different things. And I don't know, the lack of cohesion, I think is a real, I think it's a real thing as you become a big company that like you've got to like pay attention to.
And they did it, I mean, OpenAI got that scale really fast.
So fast.
And so many companies like die under the weight of themselves. And like that's what I'm sensing.
Just your own opinion.
Yeah. And like I mean, between Altman was out for a while and then came back in, and there was like this whole like uproar internal, like you don't know what that actually had on the morale or the team.
That's true.
Right? Like it just seems chaotic.
Yeah.
And disconnected.
Yeah.
So I still like Anthropic from what they're doing. I think they're thinking further ahead than other people. I do think they're slowing down their lead in sort of the model side of the world. But I'll tell you, man, the Sonnet models are still better. People still say they're better than the new models coming out. Like they just
like factually too. I mean, not just opinion.
There's like the sort of intrinsic feeling of like you read a story Sonnet makes and a story of the net new model from somebody else. You're like, I still like the Sonnet one. You know what I mean? Like they.
Listen, I use and I know in our company, I'm one of probably a third of our organization that use both ChatGPT and Claude, depending on thing that we're doing, right? Like use case. It's remarkable because Claude is better.
Right.
Is better. Like nobody will deny that, which to me it's interesting because I figured because of the leapfrogging that constantly is happening, I figured that one would be the clear winner at some point by now.
Right.
But we're still such early days, man.
We're about to tie it back to one more topic.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to disinformation. Back to, right? Think about how good the quality of Claude is in Sonnet for a moment.
Where you can get into some real trouble.
Think about all the security personnel that are about to have a fit. Imagine getting the social engineering email from like the CEO's name or like the zero.
Right.
O is a zero.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
But before, you could like take that email and you could Google it, and then there'll be like spam systems that'll tell you, oh, this is like a thing.
Yes.
Right? But imagine every email is unique. Every email is personalized to trick the individual that you're literally about to talk to.
Yeah.
You can't Google for that.
No, that's so true.
It's going to feel way more lifelike.
It will.
Right? So
no question.
There's this whole like security world that's going to be just like upended over the next year.
I agree. Before we bounce, coolest feature you've seen lately? Coolest thing you've seen done? Maybe you want to show it. Maybe you don't want to show it.
Coolest thing seen lately?
Yeah, in AI. Something that you're honestly wowed by. Company that is, in your opinion, really doing some things that are interesting that is worth talking about or seeing.
There's a company called Hume, Hume.
Yeah.
They compete with like people know like 11 Labs. Everybody knows 11 Labs.
Everybody knows 11 Labs for like voice. Audio, voice.
Cloning
like,
voices.
You go to the website, it can give you an AI voice that sounds ultra realistic.
Right. So Hume is a competitor.
Yep.
But they're like, what makes them different is they think about emotion.
Oh, pull up their website real quick.
Their entire business model is around.
I think like literally their website evokes this.
So like their whole thing is when you talk to about either voice to voice or over chat or more, it understands like they call it the empathetic voice interface.
Dude, that's crazy.
And they're trying to measure emotion.
Right.
And so like
tonality and voice, inflection.
Right.
Are you really saying something that you're not saying?
Are they sad when you talk to them?
It's crazy.
And what's just like super interesting to me is, we think about what's called multimodality in LLMs, like voice and images and video and text and all these things. There's like a third dimension to it, which is like the undertone,
of course,
of the conversation or the request.
It's exactly why we get up out of our chair, go talk to somebody versus shooting them an email or a text.
Yeah. And it's like, I think about that a lot, and I'm like, it's just like a very different data point.
And Hume is very much focused on this.
I don't know other companies are doing it.
Right. You haven't seen it in such a significant way.
And I've tested it a few times, and it is amazing how good it is. Now, I'll give you like 11 Labs, the voices are better, right?
The sound of the voice being realistic.
Yeah.
Versus Hume,
you just get more out of it.
Yeah.
Imagine for a moment you're a security company with like video cameras watching people walk in, and you can look at the expression of their face and how they say words to the teller to detect if they're like disgruntled.
Right.
Right? Or
are you using Hume for Darcy with Jeff GPT?
No.
Why does Jeff GPT, this is a sidebar, but it relates to this. Why does Jeff GPT's voice, when we do a voice-to-voice application of Darcy, why does Jeff GPT's voice have different inflection and tonality on certain words at certain times? Why is that?
So
is that a Gemini thing?
No, so it's a voice-to-voice thing. So inflection, like human inflection.
Yeah.
Like when you're excited, you may like smile.
Right.
That translates to the voice models to like exclamation marks.
What's the voice model we're using for Jeff GPT?
We were using 11 Labs.
Oh, it is 11 Labs.
Yeah.
Not Hume.
Not Hume, because you can't clone a voice on Hume. We wanted to clone Jeff, our COO.
Best voice in the company.
Wonderful.
Yes, it is. It brings a smile.
But that's how you do it. You put a comma, and that like pauses a person's voice.
And 11 Labs knows.
Yeah. But also, like, I've tuned the process to know when you should or should not use those inflection points.
That's cool. Maybe next episode we'll demo Jeff GPT.
Yeah.
Because I think there's a good opportunity there for people to understand what the art of the possible is. Maybe also for the podcast, maybe we build a version of Jeff GPT with Hume and show the difference.
I could try that.
Maybe?
Yeah.
Sweet, dude. This has been great. Cool. Anything else you want to leave everybody with?
I hope we have a great time here at SCO in Orlando. And
let's do one thing about Innovative. We know how to throw a party.
That's true.
We know how to do a lot of work together. We know how to bring everybody together. This is probably my most exciting time of the year with all the employees, because at this event we bring all the families. So all the families are down here in Universal except for yours.
I met a few girlfriends this time that I never met before.
Not your girlfriends, ex-girlfriends.
Other people's
These
girlfriends.
are girlfriends of our employees that you wouldn't have otherwise met.
Yeah.
Which is great.
They're very interesting. Very interesting.
People are.
Oh, yeah.
All right, man. Well, thanks for doing this. Appreciate it very much. Hope everybody is well. See ya.